Welcome. We are PLC 4, and we are discussing the topic of how school leaders support and model differentiation and instruction. This is presented to you by Alexandria Caputo, Jade Johnson, and James Middleton. Today, we are going to discuss our mission, vision, and values. We will review our goals. We will also review articles and ask questions that go along with the articles. And then at the end, we will talk about our conclusions based on our research.
The mission of our professional learning community is to investigate how building leaders support and model differentiation of instruction for their staff. Our vision is to provide a presentation that enlightens our classmates on the importance of differentiation of instruction and how, as future building leaders, they can model and support the growth of this technique in their buildings. And the values we have for this professional learning community is a basis of communication, collaboration, attention to detail, promptness, and support for one another.
The goals of our PLC is to set up action steps for how we will investigate our topic, to find literature, research, and data on our topic to share out our findings, analyze all of our research and collaborate to create a 15 to 20 minute presentation that must cover our topic, engage in class discussion, and follow APA format. Finalize the presentation and make adjustments as needed as agreed upon by the group. We will upload the presentation to Blackboard and then craft a response to one of the groups from the lens of a superintendent or principal that must not exceed more than 1 page and have input from all members of the PLC. The first article that we are discussing is Valuing Individual Differences. In this article, it looked at how teachers use differentiation to meet the needs of an individual. It specifically states that there needs to be a focus on meaningful choices, open-ended questions, and communication. To make sure this is done consistently, it is suggested using a PLC or professional learning community to meet and collaborate to discuss development of instructional strategies. The question to think about in regards to this article is, what are the major components of differentiation, and how would you be able to apply this in your building? The next article that we looked at was Differentiation is not the same as having a gifted program. Differentiation is great to reach multiple levels of students. Unfortunately, this will receive some lacking in regards to the gifted program. Usually, regular classroom teachers focus on skills and standards that are required for state or district tests. In a gifted classroom, teachers use differentiation at a higher level and does not focus on remediation of students. This article also states that gifted teachers should receive additional training to know how to work with higher level students. The question to think about is, what sets apart a regular classroom and a gifted classroom? How can differentiation be used to enhance student learning? The next article that we looked at was Matching Interventions to Reading Needs. In this article, the author reviews data on 6,000 third graders failing in the reading subsection for their state. While reviewing the data, the students were broken into 3 different groups: decoding, reading rate, and reading comprehension. They each discussed strategies for reaching each of these different issues. As a building leader, it's important to understand that not all students are going to have the same issues and may need different instructional strategies to reach the needs of that student. Doing this will also take into consideration the different learning styles each student might have. The question to look at in regards to this article is, how does this article promote differentiation, and can this process be replicated in your building to increase student achievement? The next article that we looked at was Teacher Learning Through Self-Regulation. Differentiation is defined in this article as the accommodation for the strengths and weaknesses of all students. To improve teachers requires this self-regulation and learning on the job. Teachers, like students, have different levels of learning and require different professional development or strategies to improve. This article concluded that self-regulation requires good goal setting and proactive stance to classroom changes. This will lead to improved skills in differentiation and increased student improvement. The question for this article is, what skills are needed for self-regulation? How would you incorporate this strategy in your building to improve teacher development?
Implementing differentiation in your classroom does not always mean creating a completely different lesson. This is a common misconception that may deter staff from implementing differentiation. It is important to start with a few steps to assure that administration and staff are on the same page. You can start with gauging your staff. Ask teachers what they know about differentiation and see where they are. Develop a school philosophy. After you've gauged your teachers, it is important that you create a definition together and decide what is your school's belief about differentiation. You want to have one mission to ensure that students have consistency throughout their time in your school. This is also a good time to talk about any misconceptions that teachers have about differentiation. Have consistent grade level meetings. Having grade level meetings will allow for time to discuss certain misconceptions students may have about curriculum and certain skills. It will also allow time to analyze data and develop ways to differentiate lessons based on student need. And lastly, have professional development on subjects or skills that are in need of improvement. Based on the information you gained from your staff, host PD opportunities where you can focus on certain strategies for differentiation. This is also a great time to share strategies that may work with students in other grade levels. Question: how can you gauge your staff to see what they know about differentiation? In this article, educator Carol Ann Tomlinson discusses her journey of understanding the importance of differentiation, but examines it from multiple lenses. She also offers a powerful quote about how to get started with differentiation when you're not completely sure where to start. She says, study your students. Work steadily to understand them better as individuals. Observe what encourages and discourages them. Listen to the stories they want to tell, how they interact with peers, and how the interactions appear to affect them. Observe their success to effort ratio in your class, and how they respond to both errors and successes. Hone in on their strengths, get a sense of their fundamental soundness. Most importantly, she offers the reader principles that she developed with her team to encourage differentiation. Plan for student engagement. Build a sense of community for students and staff. Encourage growth for student success. Figure out a flow of your classroom to find out time allowance for whole group instruction or small group instruction or individual lessons. Question: what are some ways that you understand your students? How about your staff? How do you use this information to develop lessons? In addition to looking at the curriculum to differentiate for our students, we can also create an environment that encourages and fosters differentiation. The article, Setting the Stage for Differentiation, offers a few points to help educators and leaders develop a differentiated classroom environment. Setting the stage physically. We need to create a student-centered classroom. Knowing your students. What do your students know about this unit of study? How are your students going to learn best? How can you provide appropriately challenging opportunities? Setting the stage for varied content. Let your know it's okay to take risks. We also want to encourage diversity. And we want to keep in mind that some kids may find safety in being just like their friends. Learning differences, or setting the stage to explore learning differences. We want to help our students find what learning style works best for them. Setting the stage for varied challenges. We also want to help our students understand that not all students will work at the same level. And it's okay to have a different challenge than your buddy. Question: what are some ways you can create an environment that encourages differentiation? In this article, the author talks about four lessons learned from differentiating leaderships. One, kids not content, people not programs. We need to consider that student. We need to consider what's best for the students and not what's just in the curriculum. Change yourself before you can change the world. We need to have a positive mindset. Differentiation is not always going to be easy, but we have to make sure that we are being positive and understand that it's going to take time to implement some strategies, and we need to do what's best for kids. Growth, not attainment. It's about making sure that students are having individual growth. Just because they're not achieving the same as their peers does not mean they're not growing at all. So you want to focus on moving students from their point A to their point B and not just to any point B. Floors, not ceilings. We need to have high expectations for all of our students. Question, how will you use these lessons and apply it to your leadership philosophy?
In the study, No One Way, Differentiating School District Leadership and Support for School Improvement, it investigates how differentiation is utilized among schools within the same urban school district. Through qualitative studies, differentiating support for each school can account for the needs of the school, which then can lead to higher performance. As well, differentiation can also lead to non-standard solutions for increased student success. Question: how can differentiating instruction lead to higher performing students? In the study, Support and Sabotage, 3 middle school principal attitudes towards differentiation were investigated and how that would affect their teaching staff. At the first school, the principal throughout the study remained positive about the importance of differentiated instruction and his staff's ability to implement it. Because of this, the teachers as a group were the most willing to participate in the study and felt the most positive that they could work on differentiating curriculum, lesson plans, and assessments. At the next school, the principal was more focused on interdisciplinary instruction rather than differentiating instruction. Verbal support was given for differentiated instruction, but the actions did not back that. Because of this, teachers did not feel safe implementing differentiated instruction. At the last school studied, the school environment and the relationship between teachers and school leaders led to a negative attitude towards differentiation, and that was not made a priority. The principal dismissed the benefits of differentiated instruction, and because it was not made a priority by the school leader, teachers did very little to try to implement it into their plans, curriculum, or assessments. This shows that the attitudes of school leaders affect the willingness and success of teachers to try and implement differentiated instruction in their everyday teaching, curriculums, and assessments. Question: how do principals affect differentiation at a school level? In the next study, Deep Impact, How a Job-Embedded Formative Assessment Professional Development Model Affected Teacher Practice, effective professional learning communities were studied. It was shown that effective professional learning communities can be seen like a triangle. With professional learning communities in the middle of the triangle, the process, if done correctly, allows for formative assessments at the top of the triangle, which can then help with learning targets, differentiating instruction, and a system of interventions. With support from school leaders, professional learning communities can support differentiating instruction for both lower level students and students who are excelling. Question: how do PLCs support teacher and student growth? When implementing the differentiation model, no matter the size of the school, having the support of school leadership is essential. The change will not come quickly, but establishing the foundation for change while keeping the end goal in mind will help school leaders assist teachers in how to effectively implement differentiated instruction. As stated in the text, Tomlinson, Bergeron, and Narvaez say from their own experience that they stress the importance that school leaders must be more than mere administrators, rather appropriate differentiation instructional leaders, and must have a vision and know how to plan and evaluate with their end goal in mind. Question: Why does having school leadership support allow for the success of teachers to implement new ideas in their classroom, specifically for differentiation? The conclusions from our research show that differentiated instruction leads to student growth. As well, an administrator needs to be able to understand and model differentiated instruction to maximize the benefits of the instructional strategy. You need to know who you are serving and how teachers can implement the differentiated instruction to meet students where they are at. Administrators must demonstrate how to engage in differentiated instruction that applies to events taking place in the community. And the articles demonstrated that collaboration is key to implementation of differentiated instruction and other instructional strategies that will increase student achievement.